Hey everyone, welcome to this episode on the Happy Practice Playbook. I'm Mo Jones, and in each episode of the show, you'll hear conversations with dentists, office managers, staff, and specialists who know how to create a happy practice. Today, we're joined by Lori Trost. Lori has just a few years of experience and has created a successful restorative and preventive-based practice in the greater St. Louis area. So for all you Cards fans, she is the person you want to listen to today. Her practice is also renowned for delivering excellent patient care. In addition to just being a boss and running a super awesome and successful business, she is also an accomplished dental educator and key opinion leader, traveling and speaking about not only creating a top-tier patient experience, but a phenomenal experience for her people as well. Lori, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Mo. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to have you here, especially, I get so excited when I get to chat with people I know you're on the Illinois side, but Missouri, because I'm a Kansas City girl. So I just love talking to people from the Midwest because Midwest people get it.
I agree. I couldn't. Perfect. Absolutely. We do.
Yes, yes. I
There's a certain connection there with Midwest. I think we have our work ethic, our friendliness, our understanding of lovely seasons that we get to enjoy often, right?
Oh
Right?
my gosh, all the
So,
seasons, sometimes in one day.
right, exactly.
So, anytime, when we are starting kind of our show, I love to set the scene with what we're talking about with a statistic. So, the statistic I have for you is happy employees are 12% more productive, and companies with happy employees outperform the competition by 20%. What are your thoughts initially about the statistic? Do you think that's true? Have you seen that?
I would absolutely think that it is true. And here's what I know about being happy. It's like a magnet. And you will definitely attract, I think, the like kind people, the like kind patients, like kind employees. We already know that, and I hate to tell this to dentists, but we're really not the game in town. It's really our team members. And 70% of patients want to come to your office because of your team members. And so, with that being said, that just plays into what you just shared there, Mo, with that statistic. So, if you have a happy workplace, you have a team that's engaged, they're building relationships, they know their patients' names by their first name, they're a family friendly, dental friendly, patient friendly group that they welcome and they ambassador, whether they're in the community throughout their daily lives or in the office. They're asking about them. They know the team members by name, and you're putting that out there for that kind of presence, that kind of brand that you're building. Certainly, those statistics play out, and actually, I think it's better than that. I think that's the best kind of advertising you could ever want to have within your practice and community.
Okay, so with you saying that, that reminds me. So I noticed when, of course, I did my little stalking about your practice, that on your bio you had mentioned that you want to create future generations who live without fear of the dentist. And when I was thinking about that and how you say that a lot of times patients want to come back because of your staff. What kind of led you to want to have that mission statement of creating future generations who live without that fear of the dentist? And how has that kind of led to how your staff has been treats your patients to create that experience?
So I think it comes with time that you understand what your ability is to influence people. And whether that's mentoring, maybe your teammates, maybe that's providing education to your patients, maybe that's reaching out into the community to take on a service project. I think you have to look and keep open your mind for opportunities that present themselves. And from that, you start to pick and choose what feels good to you. And because of that, I think you adopt a certain kind of strategy and a practice approach that becomes your culture. And with that being said, I think you find what's true to your heart. What makes you really happy? What makes you joyful? What makes you walk into work every day and say, I'm glad I'm here? What makes you leave at the end of the day and say, great working with you today? And you say that to all your teammates. So what happens is if you don't have patience, you're really not going to have a practice. And you've got to understand that if you keep your focus on the patient and for example, I had a young man in today, and I think many of us are seeing patients now. I can't necessarily say the term post COVID, but para post COVID. And this young man has neglected his dentition. He's 22 years old. Number 31 is completely bombed out, needs to be extracted. And he's shaking in fear. I mean, honestly, I walk in, we've already got the radiograph, and my assistant's telling me, he's very nervous, very anxious. Humo with your appointments. But he looked at me and he just says, I just want to be taken care of. And I'm like, we are going to take care of you. And I looked at him and I said, you're young. I don't want you to lose any more teeth. And I want to be able to be your dental home. I want you to know we have all the confidence in you in the world. We can partner together and we can take good care of you. And he looked at me and surprisingly, he reaches out his hand and he shook my hand. And he said, "Thank you for saying that." So how many times do we have an opportunity to really, I mean, that's a small fraction of just an interaction that you can have with someone, but that influence might change as young. So we have those opportunities and those micro moments all the time. And I don't care if it's me as the dentist, if it's the front office, it's the hygienist, assistants, you name it. Every one of us within this team have the ability to make those differences. And you never know. He might turn into the most amazing patient in the world and be grateful that when he's 80 years old, he turns around. She had a conversation with me and she told me she's going to take care of me. And here I am. I still have the rest of my teeth.
With that too, I think the world that we live in, I think sometimes that face-to-face contact, just that small simple conversations, we're not having a lot of those anymore. And I think we kind of forget how impactful that can be, like as we are in kind of a world of technology and just like on our phones and immediate kind of we just want a quick response, that I think we've kind of lost that skill and also the understanding of how meaningful that can be. And so do you feel like that's a skill, like and just having that face-to-face contact, that's a skill that you have your staff, your people work on or continually improve on to also create a great patient experience?
Yes. So we practice absolutely the art of communication, the art of what I term visual communication, because whether we're describing a procedure, maybe describing maybe post-operative instructions after a procedure, maybe we're trying to relay a situation or what presentation to the patient. We're very visual in our communication, and when I say that, I can I'll cite a couple of examples, but I do want to reiterate what you just said. I think in our world today with technology, we're so easily taken up with, we can get answers. I call it the microwave society. We can quickly get something and find out, right? But more importantly, is what you do with that information. So we've taken that now, and besides all the distractions we have in our world today, which are a million, right, every day, we're taking that information and we often hold it inside. We don't know how to maybe dispel it or distill it. And I think there's an ever growing need, especially with the pandemic that has been and the isolation that has been created, that we literally now have a situation we have lost the ability to have careful and caring communication. And so we've taken a path in our practice where we describe, say, for example, if you have, say, a fractured tooth, we describe that such that, it's kind of like when a rock hits your windshield, you might have a spidered out kind of appearance on your windshield. It's not that you need a new windshield or a new tooth, but we can maybe put a crown on that and that's going to be absolutely fine. So it's a visual description, but the patient can quickly understand what that is. So whether it's, again, a procedure or instructions or even education with the patient, we analogize many things visually for them, and I think that connects with them very well, and we use it in their day-to-day terms. We don't use dental terms whatsoever. So you're not gonna hear me or hear our office talk about mesial buccal, lingual, incisal. That's a language that scares them, and, we can do that another time, but chairside, we are completely talking just terms of just common day application and just visual communication so that people pick up on that because everyone's a visual learner and we use visual aids obviously with that. And it's just so important to maybe yeah, just step back a little bit sometimes and listen. It's crazy in the office. And you can be walking in any office and they're like, I need A1. Well, you're thinking A1. Well, that's steak sauce, right? It's not steak sauce. It's
That's
a shade of
immediately what I
composite,
just thought of.
right?
Yeah.
And then, like, the other day, it's like, "I need a new diamond." Well, who doesn't need a new diamond, you know? I mean, you need a diamond burr. What kind of diamond burr do you need? It's not a diamond ring. So, I could go on and on about, interproximal strippers and you name it all. I mean, we have a wide variety of crazy things that we ask for, or need, or use, and so I think you can just take a spin off of that and sit back and listen to your daily conversation. One of the things that and I'm going to promote this on Weave for what you have is that you can sit there and listen to your conversations, right? You can listen to your communication and it gives you a really good snapshot of what's being conveyed or what's being misunderstood or understood. So you can really hone a lot of what you're trying to communicate and get across pretty quickly.
I think when I hear talk about other people, especially when they don't like the dentist, I think that's part of it is language being used that they don't understand. Or another thing too is like when people take their car to the mechanic and the mechanic's like, you need this. And it's like, I don't know what any of that means. And now I'm more stressed out and nervous and I have zero confidence that my car's going to be fixed or that my mouth's going to be okay. And that maybe you're just doing something a little shady. And as a patient, I appreciate that fact of things being laid out and being put into terms that's easy for me to understand and grasp. So while I may not necessarily know the technical terms or know what A1 means in your case, you've explained it in a way that I feel good. And I think that overall is initially kind of what makes a great patient experience. And now on that flip side, that you've clearly mastered creating an incredible patient experience. How do you also create an environment and experience for your people that they enjoy coming to work, that they enjoy what they do, and being able to kind of help meet their passions in that way while still giving your patients like extraordinary service?
Well, I think many offices right now are struggling. I'm going to just come out of the gate and say, to find and retain exceptionally good, committed employees who understand. And I think I can totally understand where they're coming from too. And I'm going to say that as well. I think our profession, but I know the medical profession has been hit a lot harder than us. And so we have a lot of hurdles. And I do believe with how things are playing out, that it's imperative for dentists to become a really strong leader. I think they have to learn what engages their employees. They have to create certain standards and adhere to those. I think you need to have an ability to be proud of your work and be able to share that. And every team member understands their piece of that puzzle. And every patient that comes in gets that whole puzzle in a way that everyone contributes. And we're all in this together and we're all working for the common goal of the patient. And so again, I believe that every employee is special. I think they're important. I think I need to make sure that I'm telling them that all the time. I need to give them accolades in front of patients, which I like to do. I think that's critical. I like to write them notes. I like to just do different things that can make them feel special. They can walk off in a quiet moment when they're away from the office and they go, wow. And I want them to think about that. And I want them, I had a young girl today. This is kind of sweet. She's in high school. She's actually graduated from high school, but she's going to start college. And she's the lowest person on the totem pole in her office. But right now, she is just taking off like crazy. She wants to become a dentist. She told me, she's like, I want to start, I registered for school, I've signed up. But here's the thing, to be a mentor to her, to, say, here's some steps in which you're gonna ensure your future, what you can do, and kind of lay out a game plan and support her is really critical. But today, she did some things that she took immense just initiative that was just terrific. And I pulled her aside and I said, "Haley, I gotta tell you, you really stepped up today, and I noticed that." And she got red really quickly. And it was great because I know that I touched her heart and I just said, "You're so great to work with. And I want you to know how much that means to me." And I do. I want them to know that. But patients also know how much it means for them to be there too. And constantly I hear our patients again thank who they're having treat them and work with them because they have a strong connection with who their people are that are treating them dentally. And that's a big deal. And I think a lot of this stems too. I mean, you have the culture, right, of coming to work and you want it to be a happy place. I get that. Everyone wants that. It seems easy, right? It's not. We work in a chaotic field. We work in a schedule that morphs and changes, twists and turns on a dime. We have distractions of, how many, phone calls that come into the front office. You have emergencies you've got to slot in. You've got patients to manage. You've got people that run behind time. You've got people who are sick, people who are exposed. I don't know the last time I had a day that looked like normal that ended up like normal, right?
Right.
And I can tell you, I talk to other dentists and they say the same thing. So it's really it's crazy. It's like a game of marbles. You're just they're going everywhere. They're scattered. The thing is, I think you have to learn to mainstay and as a dentist become a really good leader with positivity and putting your mindset in a place that's supportive of everyone around you. And I don't care if it's young little Haley who's just graduated from high school or someone who's seasoned at my front office who has been from in dentistry for 32 years, and she came from being a dental assistant and climbed the ladder to now being an office manager. So there's a broad range there, and I think you have to find what keeps everyone happy, what their goals are, and set goals for them too. That's the other thing. They want to have growth too, and everyone will tell you in our practice nothing is stagnant. We are always. I joke all the time we're the B plusers, and the B plus wants to be the A. And that's kind of the mindset that we carry into everything that we do because we're always trying to clamor to be better. And that is only better for the patient.
Question with that: you're having everyone set their own goals, right, and you're helping them achieve them, have you ever come across a point where maybe it becomes like competitive and it creates maybe more division or contention than unity with those goals? And if that is the case, how do you overcome that?
I personally have never seen that within my practice. And I've managed a practice that was very large in the past to now that something now has just got 6 people, but employees. But I do understand. I think in larger practices that could be very contentious at sometimes. That again, I'm going to go back to individualism, and I think you have to have openness and honest conversations with every employee. You have to not take everyone collectively, but individually. But then you have to bring them together as a team and see where their really where their strengths and weaknesses are and build upon those, but also improve the weaknesses. And there also might be something there that not necessarily as a dental that you might find that they can really excel at too. And you encourage them in that area as well, in that direction. And I think that's the coolest thing too. So to me, it's not necessarily all dental and necessarily goals, but it's also personal goals too that might be away from the office.
Okay. I appreciate that because I think a lot of time, especially in kind of society today, we constantly talk about work-life balance. And so I think, being able to, if there's not necessarily a professional goal or if it's something that's smaller, being able to incorporate personal goals. Because I mean, I think in being able to know that I can kind of work or think about my personal goals while I'm doing something at work would make me a happier person and maybe be more productive when I'm at work. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't. I think that when you're in a role or position or employment position, when you're really at your best and you're really centered there, it becomes your life in many ways. And because it is your life, not that you're bleeding or blending personal and professional, but your mind is going to gravitate to other things. So if you can get sparked by something that gives you joy, that it's going to embellish the other compliments of what you're doing, where you're at, why not? So I think that's a marvelous thing, and I think that that's how we all grow, and I think that's how we can challenge each other too. I mean, I think we all have points where we have things we wanna improve on, whether we wanna share those or not all the time, right? Some we do more openly. Sometimes we do that more secretively too. And I mean, we talk about this sometimes too. Hey, where's one area that you want to work on, but you're not going to let us know? And that's a good thing too, because I don't care. That could be a whole lot of different things,
Mhm.
but the essence is that you're really pushing the marker forward in a very good positive fashion.
So now, okay, I we have happy patients, right? You've got this up here, it's nice, good, and you've got happy people. So now, how do you find the balance between the two? Is there ever a point where your patient's happiness may be higher than your people, or your people's happiness may be higher? How do you keep those things in balance and harmony?
Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. I think that when you have happy patients, happy employees, that's unbelievable. That's a great thing. But too much of something can be also crazy too. And by that I mean, with happy patients refer. And so, from my personal experience right now, I'm having a challenge by making sure I can get all of those happy patients who are referring their happy, hopefully, friends to my practice taken care of. And so there's challenges there. How do you manage that? And then you become overwhelmed because you're trying to be a pleaser. And that might take you off the course of what you really committed to initially. So there is a balance. I think you have to stay true to what your goals are, stay true to why you practice. Again, go back to that initial, why are you there? Why are you here? Why do you walk in that door every day? What sparks your joy? What makes you just get that smile? You walk out of that door that day and you go, wow, like that young man today, that was worth its weight in gold for me for a week. I never expected that young man to just to look at me and pop up and put his hand in my hand. That was a moment to me that I will never forget, and nor I don't think will he. And that impaction, that connection is so profound. And again, I'm gonna go back to my why. Were we able to get him in? Yes. Were we still busy? Yes. Did we make it happen? Yes. Did it cause a little stress? Yes. But, but at the end of the day, we made it happen. So I think you have to find the moments where you rise up. You try to maintain the happiness, but the cart starts to tilt too much and it gets to be too crazy or too stressful. You've got to learn to back down and really, really make sure that you're riding the wave okay. And I'm gonna give you a prime example. One of the things I've had to answer to recently in our is that we have had, an onslaught of new patients. We have many patients that are being referred. So I hired another front desk person, and that's a good thing, right?
Mhm.
But then you think about training, you think about all that's entailing with that new person onboarding, finding your culture. But during that time, and she's been here now with us a month, the joy that she's brought and the excitement that she's brought along with her, even though we've been chaotic and crazy and the computer, of course, went down at her workstation, you got to have all those things
The
happen at
worst.
once.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly, the perfect storm. But again, it's how you get through it, and at the end of the day, you still enjoy it, and, she said yesterday when she left, "I really like working here." Well, that tells me we're in the right direction. We've gotta keep it positive, we've gotta make the best of what we work with, and again, learn how to manage the system, and if everyone's really doing their jobs well and they're engaged, you can sense when someone needs to be picked up a little bit or help them up a little bit or just whatever you can do to help make it better, that's what you do, and that's what a team's about.
So, and it sounds to me also what you're saying is and keeping your people happy, right? In order to give best service, I think it's being kind of a little bit transparent that hey, there may be some rocky, hard times ahead, but that's not what it's going to be like all the time, right?
Absolutely, and you know, I can look at my week and Monday was an absolutely awesome rock star day. It was one of those days where the schedule looked pretty well like
Mhm.
what it was gonna look like when we started, and it ended like that, and we had one person we added in, that was great. Yesterday, not the case. We had 2 people get the wrong day, which happens, which still happens,
Mhm.
okay? Older patients, they were brought by someone who took the time to bring them, so that means that's a bigger deal, right?
Mhm.
So you learn to manage that, and, you just have to go with it sometimes, and sometimes I think you just have to really just that's when I get pulled in by the the front office and she says to me, "Hey, you got to do this, this, and that, and we're going to make this." And she's kind of already starting to establish a game plan. So, my thing is that I want to have employees that really think on their feet and they think with the patients first in mind. And given that someone was coming in yesterday, they messed up on the schedule with their appointment and they had their daughter bring them. We absolutely needed to take care of them.
Mhm.
I would have have someone make that decision, say, "No, we'll have to see you next week when you're supposed to be here." So we did the right thing. So at the end of the day, did it push us a little bit? Yes. Did we step up? Yes. And sometimes it's about stepping up.
So, and with that, so stepping up into how much would you say that you empower your people to kind of take control of situations that may be on like a perfect day, right? That maybe would have required your approval or consultation versus a crazy day where you're like you're being pulled everywhere and they need to kind of make those decisions. Like how much do you empower your people to be able to do that, or they feel confident they're empowered to make those decisions to help get your patients taken care of?
Great question. And I think, again, that goes back to individual employees and how you have a connection and a trust in them. Because honestly, I think the more you can really value and trust your team, the more, you're able to really allow them to be an extension of what you believe in, and so with that said, their decision-making process and I think you have to talk a lot about this in meetings, I think you have to understand and communicate, what are your feelings? Let's talk about, how do we manage a patient who's really pushy on the phone, for example, how do you manage a patient who says, "Well, I can only come in at 4 o'clock," and you don't have a 4 o'clock appointment available for 7 months, you know what I'm saying? So my point is, you have to have their input. It's vital because they might have a spin on this or a thought on it that could really open your eyes to how to manage a situation as well. So to get their barometer on it, on the situation, and to involve them in a way that they know the direction, but maybe they put it into their message. It all works. That's where you need the trust, and then you see their experience come behind them and make that happen. So again, it's individual. I think it's how much you need to know. How much I hate to say the term rope that you let them go, stretch out on. But I think when you have employees that you see them build on their decisions and their decision making, along with the confidence that they grow with those decisions, it only gets better and better. And being going back on the transparency, there's many I have to sit there and say, "You know what? I did screw up on that. I should have done that better, or I should have been this for this person, or I have to come forward as a leader and admit those faults as well." So, I'm far from perfect, and they all know that. They know I'm a control freak. They know they'll tell you everything. They'll push those buttons quickly. I get it, which is all good. But at the end of the day, I'm their boss. I'm their leader, but I don't want to be the boss. I want to be a mentor and, I wanna be a team leader that just has a great place to be at, to work at, to feel good, and to just leave a legacy of smiles.
So I laughed a bit when you said that you're a control freak because I think I myself am a control freak in a lot of ways, and I think probably a lot of our listeners probably have some aspect that they are a control freak of wanting to get things done in the processes. And so with that, it sounds like you set aside some time though with your team to kind of more collaborate with them. So even though, you're like, "Hey, I am the boss," and this is going that you allow that space to collaborate and hear what's going on or what they're seeing that you may not to be able to find solutions. And so with that, do you feel like that is an integral part of the success of keeping your people happy, or is it just like kind of a small part?
Oh, it's a huge component because here's the thing, if I hear their input and I wanna have I don't wanna have just 2 of us in the situation, I'd rather have 4, 6, 8, maybe 10 eyes, right? That goes along with opinions. And it also goes along with when their input is on a equal playing field and their vision, their aspect of what they're looking at and considering, when you start to say, "Hey, I really appreciate you bringing that to the table and making me aware of this. I'm not aware." And as a control freak, yeah, would I like to have eyes in the back of my head, on the side of my head, on top of my head? Yes. Everywhere, right? it's not possible. So when you can allow your team to give you the feedback and provide those additional comments and suggestions and awarenesses, I think what happens is that's an extension of your loyalty to them, but more importantly, your trust to them. And as you trust them more and more, they're going to give you more of that feedback. So that's really where you start to grow and take off and excel into it, that next level practice that really just has just an amazing level of understanding. It almost becomes intuitive in certain aspects. And I think that's really a great place to work in.
How do you respond, like in the moment when you're getting that feedback and maybe some of it's negative, and it may not necessarily be about you, but it may be like a process that you have set out? Like, just how do you respond to that? How do you respond
Yeah,
to that with
no,
your team?
it's a great well, it's like this, it's like when you get the angry patient, you got to count to 10. Don't hold your breath. Breathe. Yeah, there's some big pills to swallow, and, sometimes you have to, uh, just sit back and just take it take it all in, and listen, and it's easy to strike out sometimes, it's easy to, sit there and emotionally we work in a very emotional profession,
Mhm.
and we're close to the minds, the brains, the faces, the hearts of people. But that also is a closeness that we work with our coworkers, and, it is emotional. You can't get around that. It's gonna happen. I think what you need to do is keep it extremely professional, keep it, that you all respect each other greatly, and just to have the ability to have an open door policy as a boss, as a team leader, it's critical, and feedback is critical. I wanna have that. I wanna have I wanna make myself better too, and I wanna be able to hear that and hear that openly and carefully and really process it so I can be better for them. Because the better I am for them, ultimately, they're gonna be patients.
Got it. So, in kind of tangent off that kind of negative feedback, has there ever been a fail in your career that others should try to avoid and making the same mistake when it comes to keeping your people happy?
I'll write a book about that one day. No, I'm just joking.
Well, let's see. Can we get like a page, maybe a chapter?
Of course, there's failures. You know, I think the takeaway from a failure, I've had some things happen where over time maybe there was a disconnect with an employee or miscommunication. Sometimes you have to learn how to write those and make sure they feel appreciated with that they're heard. Again, we're going back to that. I learned early in my career that thinking I could be a friend really I thought was, oh, this is great. And I think as a female team leader, sometimes we have the tendency to become more of a friend, or we think we are, but ultimately we're not. We're still a leader, and we have to be uh, that team leader, mentor, boss that has to still be the person who has an even keel, but respect. And I want to be a friend and I am a friend, but at the end of the day, I still sign a paycheck. I
Mhm.
still provide a safe, healthy, happy working place. So I have to be mindful of that, but yet very respectful and very trustworthy of my employees. So have I learned from some failures? Yes. Have I stepped on toes? Yes. Have I struck back? Quit? Yes. I've done all of those things. So learning to count, be more patient, be more cognizant of feelings, asking about what's going on, learning about intricately what really makes each of my employees happy, and what really, what are you doing this weekend? I mean, how many people don't even know what's going on with their teammates,
Mhm.
and really just understanding what makes them click. And I think just that caring is worth its weight in gold.
So we're not going to talk about just about the negative and fails. So we like to talk about wins here too and get you kind of excited and not feeling so down. But what's one win from your career that others can replicate in their own practice and be successful?
I probably have three things I could talk about. One, I believe that I touched on earlier. You can take a micro moment and it could become just magnetic and magnanimous and just grow beyond belief. I think we each have the ability to help someone dentally that can just magnify beyond imagination. And we have the ability, we don't always think about it in those terms of turning someone's health around or dental health around. And we know it's all connected medically now too, but we have the excitement to show someone and educate them. And so that could be young or old. I don't care what age group they are, that can make a difference. So that influence is huge. I think the other thing that I've learned with wins is that small wins are great. And every day to me, every patient can be a small win. So if you count and look at your small wins, and those are maybe the patients that last time they were in, maybe they had moderate calculus, but now they come back to you and their mouth is now like just a little bit of calculus in the common areas, and you're getting that. And the hygienist is so, you're applauding your hygienist in front of the patient because they were the one that educated them. But more importantly, the patient took that education and ran with it, and they feel good about it, and they returned. And they're like, okay, we'll be back in 6 months. So they're already asking to make their appointment before they're even completed with their appointment. That's big. I think the other thing with the small wins is that you need to look at those and savor those small wins because we have so many small wins throughout the day. And we tend to get so busy, we forget the small wins. So count those small wins and cheer those on. Those are big. They're big. They're not small, they're big. And every day at the end of the day, there's small wins. There should be a lot of high fives. And I think if you do that daily, you're going to feel more satisfied, which then leads you professionally. The third thing, besides your legacy and small wins, I think that professionally, I walk away and I know that I've been fair to people and patients. I have created a legacy that I know that people are proud to have smiles. They've been treated compassionately, carefully, with the best materials, the best techniques. And that makes me and helps me sleep at night, obviously. But really, that plays over to my personal life because that's what makes me tick. And that's why I live and what I do. So those are the things I think that when that system is all working in place, you are applauding, you're cheering, you're small winning, that grows to big wins. That's what makes you happy. And professionally, we have an amazing profession we live in today. And I think we just sometimes get so overwhelmed or consumed. We don't. We see the forest, but we just don't see the trees sometimes. So I want everyone to see the trees. Look more carefully. Look at the little wins. Look at that little note the patient wrote you. Maybe look at that new employee, like, who we just hired at their front desk, and she said she saw someone at the grocery store, and they knew her name already after being at the office twice. Think about that. She's made an impact. That's a small win. So, we have all of these little opportunities to build ourselves up, and I think we have to use that and make that happen because we have a very difficult profession we're in. People are anxious. 82% of patients are anxious when they walked in, right? And another fourth of us are, even as we're a dental professional ready to give and deliver anesthetic, a fourth of us are even feeling anxious with that. So is it stressful? Yes. I think we need to be able to reduce that stress, keep it light, keep it fun as best as you can, and treat people just with the utmost care and treat them like your family, and you'll do great.
I genuinely feel like your passion and your care for this profession, what you do, is totally emulated by those tips that you gave. And we're almost out of time, but we like to leave our listeners with what we call a motivational tip, as you will. We'll play on my my name. So I know you kind of already gave us your kind of three things of success, but if you could just give them one little kind of tidbit or soundbite out of your playbook of success, what would that be? That kind of like one liner that they can just have in their head all day.
Oh, golly. Uh, you know, I'm gonna say this. I absolutely believe that we are such an exciting time right now, and I'm gonna suggest to everyone that you surround yourself with good people, and those good people are gonna be able to challenge you, they're gonna be able to listen to you, make suggestions carefully, and you're gonna listen, you're gonna make that happen, and I think if you surround yourself with good people, you can never go wrong.
Okay. Surround yourself with good people, and you can never go wrong. Alrighty, well, that is a wrap for today. Thank you so much for being with us, Lori. Appreciate your time and your wisdom.
Good. Well, thank you so much. This has been fun, Mo. I appreciate it so much.
Yes, thank you. And thank you to everyone listening. Don't forget to join the Happy Practice Playbook Facebook group, where we'll be discussing this topic more and sharing other helpful resources to help you keep your people happy. I'll be posting to get all of your tips and tricks. If you liked what you heard today, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next episode, and we hope you'll join us next time. It's your girl, Mo Jones.